blood on ancient altars, eyes gleaming in the jungle darkness, the whispers of shamans and the screams of death. This isn't some horror movie. These are the world's scariest tribes, and their stories are all too real. Get ready for a journey into the heart of darkness, where cannibal feasts, ghostly warriors, and terrifying rituals will shake you to the core. First up on our list is Simbu of Papua New Guinea, which has been hidden in their mountain homeland for centuries. The Simbu were first encountered by outsiders less than a century ago, but their traditions are ancient, a world of thatched huts, communal living, and rituals built around the all-important pig. Pigs aren't just food to the Simbu, they're currency, used to seal marriages, mourn the dead, even to thank a woman for giving birth. Their greatest ceremonies involve feasts of hundreds of slaughtered pigs, a dizzying spectacle of wealth and ritual exchange. It's a world so far from our own, and it feels like a fever dream. Are those feasts acts of generosity or displays of power meant to intimidate rivals? The Simbu hold their secrets close, reminding us that even with satellites and the internet, some corners of the world and of the human heart remain shrouded in shadow. The Simbu and their pig feasts might seem bizarre to us, but at least they have villages, trade, some of the markers of what we call civilized. Some tribes cling even more fiercely to the old ways. Deep in the forests of the Philippines, the Batak have lived as hunters and gatherers for longer than anyone can remember. These small, dark-skinned people with cloud-like hair are a mystery. Did they come from across the sea, or are they remnants of some even more ancient migration? No one knows for sure. The Batak farm, but only enough for themselves. They trade with outsiders, but maintain their own language and traditions. They're a vanishing breed, not from violence, but from something more subtle. Some Batak work for wages now or cater to tourists. Their children might grow up with cell phones and dreams of the city. Progress is a slow poison for tribes like this. The forests of the Philippines hold their share of secrets, but for a truly lost world, you have to look north, way north, to the frozen edge of Siberia, where the Chukchi people have carved out a life for thousands of years. This isn't just one tribe, but two. The reindeer Chukchi roam the bleak tundra with their herds, living in tents that come and go with the seasons. The maritime Chukchi cling to the coast, hunting seals and whales from skin boats, just like their ancestors did in the time of mammoths. Two ways of life, but one harsh land shapes them both. The Chukchi believe spirits haunt the ice and the wind. They call on shamans to heal the sick and foretell the future, because in a world this unforgiving, you need more than just muscle and a sharp spear to survive. Their land might be hostile, but the Chukchi are tough and adaptable, proof that the human spirit can burn brightly even in the coldest darkness. Some tribes are just different. Others make your blood run cold. In India, hidden among the temples and crowds, there's a sect called the Agori. They're holy men, but not in a way most people would understand. To them, death isn't just an ending, it's a source of power. The Agori haunt cremation grounds, places where the dead are burned. They cover themselves in ash, make jewelry from human bones, and even craft bowls from skulls. To us, this is horrifying, but to them, the body is just an empty shell. By facing what others fear, they believe they become stronger. They claim to heal by taking the sickness from others into themselves. Some even eat the flesh of the dead, seeking a twisted kind of wisdom. It breaks every rule we have about the dead, about what's clean and unclean. Outsiders call them evil and unnatural, but the Agori don't care. They've seen a side of life most of us hide from, and it's made them something strange and unsettling. The Agori and their ash-covered rituals might disgust us, but at least they harm no one but themselves. When a tribe's traditions turn violent, things get even more disturbing. Deep in the heart of Ethiopia, the Mercy live a life shaped by old beliefs and harsh necessities. Their priests speak to a sky god called Tumwi, a being who can take the form of a bird. But the most striking thing about the Mercy isn't their religion, it's their appearance. Mercy women wear large plates on their lower lips, stretching the flesh over the years. To outsiders, it looks painful. and bizarre, but to them, it's beautiful. Those plates aren't just decoration either. They're used to attract tourists, and their dollars flow back to the tribe. And Mersey men, well, they don't settle arguments with words. They have ritual duels, beating each other with long poles. Scars are a badge of honor, proof of a man's bravery. It makes you wonder, is this savagery or a way of life that's just as valid and maybe more honest than our own? The Mersey, with their lip plates and jewels, might seem like the stuff of nightmares, but there are worse things out there than flesh and blood warriors, however brutal. Sometimes the oldest fears are the ones that cut the deepest, like the legends of the Hawaiian Islands. They speak of the night marchers, ghosts of ancient warriors rising from their graves on sacred nights. You'll hear their drums and the eerie wail of their conch shells, but if you see them, tradition says you're already doomed. These aren't friendly spirits out for a stroll. They march with deadly purpose, bound to old battlefields or summoned to take a dying soul to the other side. They say the night marchers walk on air, leaving no footprints, just the lingering chill of something unnatural passing through our world. It's enough to make you wonder, are there some boundaries even death cannot erase? Some warriors who find no peace even beyond the grave? The night marchers show us that sometimes fear springs from the unseen, but just as disturbing is what happens when the mysterious and the very real collide in unexpected ways. Take the cargo cults of the South Pacific. These aren't ancient tribes untouched by civilization. Their story begins with World War II, a clash of empires that must have seemed like the gods themselves were fighting. Imagine you're an islander in a remote place like Tanna. For generations, your world has been canoes, taro fields, and village life. Then suddenly, soldiers descend from the sky. Men with dark skin and machines beyond anything you could invent. They have food, medicine, radios, all of it falls from the sky as if by magic. Then just as suddenly, the war ends and the gods disappear. But wouldn't you try to bring them back? To mimic their rituals in hopes the cargo will flow again? That's how John Frum, a figure no one has ever truly identified, became a god to some islanders. They carve wooden planes and build fake control towers, all in a desperate attempt to recapture a power they barely understood. It's tragic, funny, and more than a little unsettling. Cargo cults show how hope and desperation can warp with time. But there are places where ancient horrors linger, not as ghosts, but as flesh and blood reality. Deep in the jungles of Papua live the Korowai, a tribe cut off from the world until very recently. We think of cannibals as something from old explorer tales, but out there, the lines blur. The Korowai live in raised houses, protection not just from floods, but from neighboring tribes who might turn them into the main course. Kidnapping, slavery, this isn't some dark fantasy, it's their recent past, and there are whispers of a punishment called kakwa, reserved for those who practice black magic, being eaten alive by your own relatives. Now, some say these stories are exaggerated, maybe even encouraged by the Korowai themselves to attract thrill-seeking tourists. Who knows? The truth is, out there in the green shadows, old ways die hard. The truth about the Korowai and their cannibal past might be grim, but at least it has the bitter clarity of violence. Far more disturbing is when the line between legend and reality dissolves completely. Also from Papua New Guinea come the Asaro, the mudmen. Their name says it all. They coat their bodies in pale mud, wear grotesque masks with elongated ears or twisted horns, and move with an eerie, unnatural silence. It's no wonder their enemies often flee in terror, but why do they do it? The Asaro themselves offer different stories. Some speak of a lost battle, of rising from a muddy riverbank and being mistaken for vengeful spirits. Others hint at poison, at rituals meant to ward off an unseen evil. The real reason might be lost to time, leaving the mudmen as walking enigmas. They show us that fear doesn't always need fangs or a bloody spear. Sometimes the truly unsettling comes from what we don't understand. From fearsome mudmen to the Korowai and their cannibal rumors, we've seen how the human story can get twisted and strange in isolation. But there's a different kind of horror, a quieter one, the slow death of people who were once free. That's the story of the Moken, the sea nomads of the Andaman Sea. Imagine living your whole life on turquoise water, in rhythm with the tides. The Moken fished, dove for pearls, knew every current and reef for hundreds of miles. A world most of us can barely conceive of. Their ancestors might have traveled this way for thousands of years. Some even claim the Moken have genetic adaptations for life at sea, like incredible underwater vision. But that world is shrinking. Borders and fishing laws cut them off from ancestral waters. Their children sit in classrooms, not on the prows of boats. Soon, maybe all that will be left of the Moken are photographs and a few paragraphs in history books. They were called barbarians, savages, and ghosts. But the more we learn about these so-called primitive cultures, the clearer it becomes. They aren't monsters, just mirrors. They reflect our own capacity for cruelty, beauty, and beliefs that defy logic. Before we dismiss them, maybe we should ask what they can teach us about the darkness lurking in our own supposedly civilized souls. As always, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you can't get enough of that history crack.